1986. It is a dark time for a lot of people in 1986. The space shuttle disaster happens. The Ronald Reagan scandal kind of starts about this time. There are so much dark things going on in 1986. And in 1986, the Altar Boys record the album GLM. Why? Because in the 80s, people didn't have time to talk. They just used abbreviations. They're going to watch BTO sing their song, and it'll be in abbreviations as well. But we're trying to figure out in 1986, there's 160 hours that was devoted to GLM. The idea, though, for Altar Boys at first was to record 2 albums, Against the Grain and GLM. Against the Grain, of course, comes out next year, which is the first good album I really liked from the Altar Boys, because I never heard GLM. I've heard GLM years later, and I was like, now is released as one of my favorites of all times. It was re-released by Grider Records in 2015, and had a lot of marketing involved in that, and included a lost track that was missing, was Just Can't Let It Go, even though it was promised before the album was released in 1986. So You Found Me was originally one of the tracks was supposed to be in a U2 style song. One of my deepest regrets with Christian music is how much influence U2 had on the industry. The Edge, of course, had recorded with such Christian artists as 77s, and in fact 77s and The Alarm and groups like that were closely connected musically. But as you can see, U2 became the breakout band, and so many Christian artists started to embrace that style. But I'm so glad, to me, GLM does not fall in that category of U2 clones, as we'll find great bands later on try to emulate and try to copy. But of course, Mike Stan's brother was in the group Lifesavers and was a big influence in the direction of where Altar Boys went, because he technically wasn't really wanting to embrace the sound of the punk. He was more of a Grand Funk, Mark Farner type fan. Let's go track by track by each one of these songs that are on GLM. First we have You Are Love, which opens up. It kind of does have a little U2 opening there, but if you watch the music video, you can see what Altar Boys is, and they had such a attraction to younger people, which a lot of the California bands did, and could relate more to the younger people at the time that were listening to the 80s sound. Then you have GLM, which was a kind of bubblegum Christian pop song, I guess you would say, because it's one of the songs that many 80s artists did, where they used generic people to try to bring a salvational message. But it is a good song, good track, and is the title track to keep the Altar Boys in the place what they had already established with When You're a Rebel. So I'm Not Talking About Religion is a song that, again, is in that When You're a Rebel. So after you listen to When You're a Rebel, you're continuing with When You're a Rebel. But there was a statement song said, I Question It, which is a song that slowed down, even though it was decided upon later as Mike Stan was writing, and he wanted to create a statement. It's a very controversial song at the time, and really put the position of what the Altar Boys was versus many of the other Christian groups out there. Many Christian groups didn't want to dive deep into these territories, like abortion or evolution being taught in schools at the time. You Found Me is probably one of the best tracks off of it, and like I said, it was originally supposed to be a U2 style, but ended up being something of a Altar Boys stamp, which showed that Mike Stan could be a songwriter, and You Found Me is right there. Just Can't Let It Go, of course, is a missing track that didn't make it, but it is on the 2015 version of the album. So if you get the 2015 Grider release, Girder release, whatever you want to call it, you will get this track. Just Can't Let It Go. It's a good song. And I cannot give you what my take is, because I've just listened to the song and really don't. So this is more about the 1986 release. Unconditional Love was a Donna Summer cover that Mike Stan decided to do. Donna Summer had just recently devoted her life to Christ, and this is a song that she wrote, and Altar Boys thought that would be good. And I think it worked out fine because punk and reggae, and that was kind of another emergence of what punk is, and punk and ska. If you hear a lot of clean guitar, and you will when you're a rebel, and that ska feel is there with, you know, Altar Boys, because that's kind of the mixture of what punk is. Punk is not just always, you know, the Sex Pistol type punk that is out there. There Is Love is a song that was really tough vocally for Mike Stan and the group to do. It has a 60s song feel to it. I always just love the styles that Altar Boys really possessed and really challenged Mike Stan, who did not want to embrace himself as a vocalist. Calling to You is a song that he had trouble getting words to, couldn't figure out what he wanted. He just kept on playing until the words come to him. The Final Hour was a song, I was so glad that made it to the album, but there is a story how the song may not have made it to the album. See, Altar Boys were playing at Cornerstone, and the Green Book that Mike wrote his songs in, that's right, wrote his songs in, had been misplaced. But by the grace of God, their manager knew where the Green Book was. Mike Stan was able to complete the song for the 1986 studio recording. Final Hours is a great song. It's very gutsy, and we'll go on to what we get with Against the Grain, which comes next. Life Begins at the Cross. This was a Rick Albel contribution, and it's a good one to put on the album. It was recorded at 3D Studios and released on Frontline Records. Of course, let me put that back. I don't think this was released on the MRC label, but the original Altar Boys was released on the Altar Boys MRC label, but this was released on the Frontline label. Like I said, this is 160 hours of labor that these guys put together, and so Frontline became kind of the refuge for this kind of music. Many artists, Krumbacher, Altar Boys, Undercover. Without Frontline, there would be no listening of these great albums. But to add to this, Alex McDougall added percussion to this. Rob Watson added little touches to this. But Terry Taylor from the Daniel Amos band actually did the vocal arrangements on this, because like I said, this is not a group that was strongly a vocal group, but with the help of Terry Taylor putting the band together to create some great vocal arrangements, you have what is gut level music. And this is one of Mike Stan's favorite albums, and it is now one of my favorite albums. It is a shame that I did not get to hear this album when it was released, because I would have instantly fell in love with this album, because it was right up there with some great 1986 Christian albums that was coming out at the time. 86 was a pivotal year in Christian music, and Gut Level Music is a proof of that these guys could hang with the best, and they did, and it's just a pivotal good album. Overall, I recommend this album still today. You get into it immediately when you hear GLM. I think Unconditional Love is one of my favorite covers I've ever heard of. When you get to Final Hour and Life Begins at the Cross, but I think the thing is, immediately when you listen to this album, you start singing to it. It's peppy. It's like 180 to 200 BPMs, and you really get going. This is the kind of music I like and loved, and what you know, for the ADHD crowd that was coming up in that generation. And it's, to me, stands the test of time. And it amazes me that people want to embrace the slower stuff, but this stuff was fast, it was upbeat, it was more than just poppy, and still today stands the test of time. Mike Stant has compared it even to his later projects as still being a better project, even though there was less time spent in the studio than most major projects that are done today. So there you are. There's my take on one of the best Christian albums that was number 5 on HM's writer's pick for best Christian album of all time. And you guys have a great day. Keep in mind, there'll be more Zipppits coming.